All right, guys, this is a live weather update. The time right now is about 1:12 on the East Coast on Tuesday, October 8th. And we are looking at that box there just to the side there of Hurricane Milton with an update from the National Hurricane Center of back up to 150-mile-per-hour sustained winds. So we are expecting a very strong hurricane to make landfall by tomorrow night along the west coast of Florida. It looks like it's going to be really close to Tampa tomorrow night. Could be probably the worst storm that anyone in that part of Florida has seen in their lifetime. The closest comparison is maybe the 1921 hurricane, which most folks that are alive now were not around then or certainly wouldn't remember that storm. So this is going to be a historic storm with a Category 3 or 4 hurricane making landfall in this part of Florida. It's likely to be a disastrous storm. Pretty much a sure bet that this is going to be a billion-dollar disaster. But let's look at that satellite view a little bit closer now. And what we have seen this afternoon is a change in the size. I don't mean the strength, but the overall size in the storm. Hurricane Milton has been expanding. Yesterday, this was a very small hurricane, a very strong hurricane. I mean, it was a Category 5 with 180-mile-per-hour winds. But now the size, the overall size of the hurricane is expanding as it moves off. You can clearly see it's taken a jog off to the northeast in the last few frames. So what we're looking at here is a graphic that shows each individual line as a forecast model. So each line there is a forecast model, and moving forward in the path, you can see that pretty much every forecast model that we have available to us is really honing in on an impact very close to Tampa tomorrow night. So this isn't one of those times where the storm could go anywhere from let's say Key West all the way up to Tallahassee and everyone's on guard. We're all on guard because of the sheer size of this thing, but we're highly confident that this is going to make landfall very close to Tampa, plus or minus 45 to 50 miles or so, but pretty close to Tampa tomorrow night. Now, I will say that slight shift in the path, north or south, will make a huge difference in regards to where we see the absolute worst storm surge, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. So let's switch the graphic here over to the National Hurricane Center forecast. So this is the National Hurricane Center forecast. This is the graphic that they put out there that shows you the path of the hurricane and then also the cone of where we could see some impacts. So you see the cone as it moves forward in time toward Wednesday evening, tomorrow evening. The cone is a little bit wider. So basically, you're looking at a potential landfall that is plus or minus 50, 60 miles or so north or south of Tampa. Worst case scenario for Tampa would be a landfalling hurricane north of Tampa, which would put you, Tampa folks, in the worst part of this storm. So I'm adjusting the graphic, so bear with me, because I'm trying to switch over to the peak storm surge graphic, and I want to zoom in on the Tampa area. So what we're looking at here is the National Hurricane Center's forecast for the worst case scenario storm surge. That's what you should be prepared for in this type of scenario. So if you know anyone in this part of Florida, there's a good chance if they're close to the coast that they've already been asked to evacuate, and they should follow those orders. Anyone who's in an evacuation area should be evacuating as soon as possible. Anyone outside of that, I've been encouraging to move on out, leave the area, because you're likely to experience an extended period without power. And that's just, if you're able to leave, it's a very inconvenient situation to put yourself in. Without power, no way to charge your phone, no way to cook your food, no way to keep your food cold other than ice. If you can, just leave the area, and today would be the last time you can actually do that. By tomorrow, you have maybe the morning, and then the weather is going to go downhill in a hurry. But look at this storm surge. Look at this graphic. I mean, we're talking about a 10 to 15 foot storm surge, easily close to double what we saw with Hurricane Helene in the Tampa Bay area. And that was a record storm surge. This could easily be double that. So this is going to be a storm like unlike that we've seen in our lifetime for this part of Florida. All the way down toward the Fort Myers area, we're going to easily see a 4 to as much as a 6-foot storm surge. So this is a huge storm that's really going to grow larger in size as it approaches the coast, and it will have significant impacts on Florida for not just tomorrow night, and Thursday, but this is going to have lasting impacts, I think, for weeks, if not years. I mean, that's what we're talking about with this type of storm. So let's switch back to the satellite image, and this is what the hurricane looks like right now. I mean, I think I said this last night. This is just such a scary storm. Last night, at one point, 180 mile per hour sustained winds. Right now, we're looking at winds at about 150. And I'll double check that here. We'll switch back over to this graphic here from the National Weather Service. Yeah, we're still at 150 mile per hour sustained winds. But there's a look at the satellite again, and we are expecting that eye to remain well defined. I don't think that this storm is going to strengthen much more. It did a little bit from where it was this morning, but the overall forecast is for this to sort of gradually weaken as it approaches the coast. But we're talking a Category 5 hurricane coming down to maybe a Category 3. So you're looking at the forecast models chart there. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see what I'm looking at here. But I want to switch the actual product here. So bear with me for 1 second, because what I want to show you is the wind forecast for this storm. So this is the forecast for Milton. And I guess I need to be able to show you at least what's on the bottom of the screen here, because that's the important part. So at the bottom of the screen there on the x-axis, it's like you're back in math class, right? You have the time moving forward. So we're talking about, I guess you can see my mouse a little bit there, but we're talking about a landfall. Let me make this bigger so you can see it. A landfall that's going to happen late tomorrow evening. So that's somewhere along this part of the chart. So like somewhere in here. And you see how it rapidly declines in strength. So this is the wind here on the y-axis. The farther up you go, the stronger the storm. And then on the right side, you can actually see the categories here, right? Category 1, Category 2, Category 3. See the Category 3 line, the yellow? Follow this over. Landfall somewhere in the Wednesday evening time frame. It's a Category 3 to almost Category 4 for most of the forecast models that we're looking at. So that is the most likely scenario here, is that this storm makes landfall with winds. I guess it has it estimated there at around 115, 120 miles per hour. So that's what most of the forecast models are showing. So that's what folks should be prepared for as far as the strongest winds go. And then we talked about the storm surge that could be life-threatening. I'm sure the word unsurvivable would be appropriate here, because just a reminder, a storm surge is how much higher the water goes compared to where it normally is. So if the ocean is out there, you can add 15 feet on top of that, plus waves on top of that. So that's what we're talking about with a storm surge up to 15 feet higher than what we typically have the ocean level at. So, I mean, I don't know any other way to say this than this is an exceptionally dangerous storm, a life-threatening storm with a life-threatening storm surge. I didn't even get into the flash flooding through the interior parts of Florida, the wind damage and extended power outages. And this is on the, piggybacking off of the impacts from Helene. So a very serious storm. Public officials, listen to them, listen to the evacuation orders. If you know anyone outside of that immediate impact area that's contemplating leaving, my advice has been leave. Come back. Go hang out with a friend for a week if you can, and then come back when things settle down, because you're not going to have power, and it's just not going to be a very fun time for you. Trying to keep your phone charged, trying to find ways to cook food. Restaurants won't be able to cook the food either. So those are my pieces of advice. I do wish everyone a safe ride through this storm. I'm thinking about all my friends and the other folks, maybe the people I've never met. I'm thinking about all of you down there in this part of Florida as you get your way through this storm. We'll talk more about it. Weather with Eric, of course, a weather app available in the App Store and on Google Play. There's also my weather subscription, which that's what that link is there below. You can always sign up for weather updates there, $5 a month. Or if you just want to say thanks, I got that buy me coffee option too. Sending the $5 at a time to not just pay for my coffee, but help pay for a lot of these different products that I use to put out this weather information. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Got to get back to work. My other job, my full-time job right now. So again, we'll talk to you soon. I'll keep you weather folks updated as things change here as Hurricane Milton approaches the Florida coastline and makes landfall tomorrow night. Talk to you guys later.